Yes, there was that. And there was that. And there is a Mavs loss, 111-99. The Sacramento Kings have swept the Mavericks. And in fact, in 3 games, the Dallas Mavericks have led the Kings for a combined 42 seconds. Ouch. I am Jeff Skin Wade. Joining us is Devin Harris. And then down from his broadcast position is Derek Harper. And Harp, I'll start with you. It was a very frustrating evening. What do you take away from this Sunday night?
Well, a couple of things, Ken, to be quite frank with you. One, the Mavericks didn't shoot the ball well from the three-point line, and when they don't, every team in this league has a chance against them. And then I'll go right to the defensive side of the basketball. You just said 42 seconds is the only amount of time that the Mavericks have led against Sacramento. Sacramento shoots 48% from the field, 36% from the three-point line, a very respectable offense, and Dallas didn't have answers for them. They let a lot of guys get away from them on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and Devin, you know, you're looking down at this. Hart pointed out the three-point shooting, uncharacteristic turnovers. It's almost like what we expect when the Mavericks play Sacramento this year.
You know, sometimes you just run into teams that just have your number. And I think, you know, with Sacramento, that's just the case. I mean, for whatever reason it is, they don't bring the proper disposition. They don't, you know, come really ready to play. But Sacramento, they thrive on a rat race type of a game, a pickup type of a game. And they've been allowed to do that. And obviously defensively, the Mavs didn't really come with their hard head tonight, but also usually when they couple that with the poor three-point shooting, it's going to be tough for them to win most games.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to go, Devin. Take a look at these numbers. I mean, the Sacramento Kings have not been a good defensive team. In fact, they've been the worst. Last in the NBA in points allowed, last in the NBA in defensive rating. But against the Mavericks, those numbers go way down. They allowed an average of 104. Harp, as you've seen these 3 games, and especially tonight, why do you think the Mavericks have not been able to score against a bad defensive team?
I think you go to shot selection. I think if you saw Luka when he put the ball on the deck, he was able to get basically whatever he wanted. I don't think you can settle against a bad defensive team, and I thought we did. I know we are a heavy reliant three-point shooting team, but there are times where you can get whatever you want by just a little dribble penetration. You drive, you find somebody open on the inside, you kick to a very rhythm-type three-point shot. But you know, that's my question for the Mavericks is when they're not making threes, what do you do as a basketball team to be efficient and be good as an offensive team?
Yeah, you got to make adjustments. Obviously, you know, we're not shooting the ball well from three-point range. Are you going to keep firing, or are you going to attack the paint, maybe get to the free throw line? And sometimes when your jump shots aren't falling, adjustments need to be made. And you know, it's a team that gives up pretty much whatever. So points in the paint could have been, you know, a way to go tonight, just really live in the paint. Like I said, Luka can get in there whenever he feels necessary. And then you can get three-point shots from there. But, you know, offensively, like I said, you got to break it down. You got to grind this team. You can't always take the first shot that comes available. You know, you have to work the ball around and really make them work defensively in order to get what you want.
And let's face it, the other thing is that Sacramento is simply confident against Dallas. And that's what I say about good offensive teams. I don't think that Sacramento is as bad as their record, but they're certainly not a better basketball team personnel-wise than the Mavericks are. But for whatever reason, they come here and they feel like they can win against this Maverick team. And, you know, if you feel that way, if you're that confident against a team, then surely you'll have some success against them.
Talking about confidence, it was a dominant. I mean, they've led, for 42 seconds total over these 3 games, 2 wire-to-wire victories. That's dominance over 3 games. So whatever they're doing is definitely working.
Yeah, and one of the things that we saw tonight, Harp, I know you were as blown away as I was. Marvin Bagley, if he can stay healthy, he's got a future in this NBA. He was really good tonight.
Yeah, he makes them a different team because he brings a different dynamic to the game, if you would. And you're talking about a guy that can face you up and knock down shots, can get around you. Excellent rebounder, so quick off the ground. You know, I think we forget because he's been so injured throughout his career. This guy was a lottery pick, so there's no questioning his ability. The only thing you can question about Bagley is whether or not he can stay healthy, because he certainly has the game and the skill set to be a special player in this league.
And I think he had something low in the tank tonight going against a Luka Doncic, knowing the comparison's been there since draft night, and obviously he came there ready to play, aggressive, and there's a lot of aggression out there tonight.
Yeah, and let's think
he's
about
not close to Luka, there.
I know he's not.
But let's think about this, guys. I mean, you're talking about De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes are not out there for Sacramento, and Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley-Harp, they gave them a ton of offense for the Kings.
Well, two guys that can score the basketball. I mean, you think about Buddy Hield. He's the guy, you said it on the broadcast, that can score the basketball and is capable of exploding. 16 points a game, 39% from the three-point line. He's on the floor to let it fly anytime he wants. He has that dark green light. And tonight, with all of the injuries that you alluded to, somebody had to step up for Sacramento, and he was able to do it along with Mr. Bagley.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't seen a shot he hasn't liked. I mean, he gets them up regularly, and tonight was no different. But he had to be aggressive. Like I said, with those guys out, somebody had to score. He took advantage of the opportunity tonight. And, Buddy is a great shooter and a good player. And obviously, the big shot to kind of put the game out of reach. But,
yes,
he kind of settled that team down a little bit, especially in that third quarter when things kind of got out of hand. They looked to him to kind of, settle them down and get some good shots, and he did a good job of that.
And you know what, Skid? I think we have to give DeLon Wright a lot of credit, because I think his steadiness as a point guard really settled this team down. Sacramento, when Dallas was trying to make a run, he made some huge plays and some good decisions down the stretch. Showed a lot of poise as a player.
Yeah, and we were talking about this when I got up here, Devin. You're like, there's a couple guys down there in Sacramento that wanted to have a good night, and Wright was certainly one of those guys.
A lot of guys that are happy with those 3 victories tonight. Barnes and as well as DeLon Wright as well. But like I said, sometimes teams just have that number. Mavs didn't come out with a great effort tonight. Back to back, you can make excuses a lot of different ways, but you got to pick yourselves up and try to get ready for another one.
Harp, we appreciate you, brother. We'll see you Tuesday night, man.
Okay, you all enjoy.
There he goes, Derek Harper. But we have plenty more still to go on Mavs Live, including hearing from Coach Carlisle. That's coming up next on Bally Sports.
Mavs Live on Bally Sports is brought to you by Frontier Communication.
Yeah, this is how I palm my Whataburger. Like Boban palms his ball right here before he puts it in. Obviously, it's a bright spot and a night so bright night. But Boban was a bright spot coming off the bench tonight, and it was good to see him out there. And we got to just look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. There wasn't a lot of great plays to choose from, but it is fun. That's how, Dad does the kid in Nerf hoop.
Yeah, no doubt.
Just kind of
keep away.
Just does it right over him. Well, Boban did contribute a lot tonight, but it was a frustrating night for the Mavs, and Coach Rick Carlisle had a few things to say about it.
We obviously didn't play well. We really struggled at both ends. We didn't defend well, and we didn't shoot it well, and so it was a difficult night. I thought for a lot of the segments of the game, we gave good energy and good effort. Probably not consistent enough. We go 17% from 3. They go almost 40. It's going to be tough, but difficult game, difficult back-to-back. We got a little unlucky there, but we're going to have to flush this one and get ready for Tuesday.
Tim McMahon.
Rick, I will not chip in for any fines, but I want to give you a chance to address your issues with the officiating, and also this is now 15 tees for Luka this year. You're concerned about him being one away from a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, and it's something we've been making him aware of. Look, I set a poor example tonight by getting 2 myself, so that's on me. And I apologize to the team after the game for it too. It's not the right example. I've got 4 technicals this year. They're all from the same guy, so. I'm not sure exactly what that says, but there's a saying, reasonable men have a right to disagree, and so I'll stick with that. But I thought the right layup in front of our bench where he looked like he shuffled and took extra 1 or 2 steps was clearly a travel. There was there was no call, and that kind of was the last straw for me. But we got to move on, you know, and you know, it's 8 games left, I think, and or 9 games left, whatever it is. How many games left is it?
8 left.
Yeah, 8 left. They're all very meaningful. You know, hopefully we'll get Tim back on Tuesday. We'll see where KP is. And we'll head to Miami and look to play better.
Okay, we'll just do one more with Brad, and then we'll be done with Coach.
Yeah, Rick, you guys got it down to 65 to 62, and I just wondered why you think you guys weren't able to get it over the hump from there.
Yeah, we just, you know, we were getting pretty decent shots all night. You know, we were struggling defensively. We were struggling on the boards. Bagley had a huge game, and that really hurt us. And so, hey, there's no excuses. This, you know, on paper, forget Sacramento's record. You know, they got some very talented guys down there. They've been a tough matchup for us, and we didn't play well enough. And so, you know, we got it close a few times. You know, but you know, the 36-26 hole in the first quarter is tough to climb out of, and it speaks again to the importance of good starts in the NBA, and we got to do better.
Thanks.
All right, several things to chop up there, Devin. One, you lose one game and you drop 2 spots. That's the nature of things. We'll get to standings in a minute. But the technical foul stuff, so I don't remember you getting a bunch of texts, but do you remember every ref that gave you the tech?
I would if I only got 4. There's been some seasons where I got 10, 11 maybe. And sometimes you got to fight for yourself out there when you feel like you're getting the short end of the stick. But, you know, when you start getting up to 14, 15, 16, it's something you have to be aware of. It's a mentality. And, you know, that's kind of been the knock on Luka, that he kind of complains a lot.
Right.
So he's got to, you know, grow up in that department, understand you have to adjust to the refs a little bit. And, you know, it's sometimes it's tough calls. You got to make the adjustment, but you can't show the emotion. Obviously, that's something that, you know, they've been really kind of picking on him in that sense, in that direction.
Yeah, and you saw the first tech there, and this is the reaction to the second tech, I believe, and he got that. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a montage of upset Luka, I suppose. But he got the final tech, Devin, for throwing the ball on a dead ball possession as Rick Carlisle's getting ejected.
Yeah, and I think that point they're kind of, you know, nitpicking a little bit, but obviously you can't do that in that situation, and you leave it to the ref's discretion at that point. You don't want to do that, especially after a tough night of calls and a lot of things that didn't go your way.
Yeah, well, I referenced it a second ago. You lose one game, you fall 2 spots. So let's take a look at those Western Conference standings, because every game means something. Trailblazers beat the Celtics by 10. You see the Lakers locked up with the Raptors right now, but the Mavericks started the night in 5th place, and now they fall to 7th and back into that play-in scenario.
You know, and we talked about it in preseason. You got to beat the teams that you have to beat. Obviously, with the schedule the way that it is, 8 games left, you know, this was a very important game. They could have, you know, secured another 5th spot, but with Portland having the tiebreaker, you know, you drop below them, and you got to figure that the Lakers are going to eventually pull things together with those guys getting healthy.
Yeah, we talked about it on Mavs Live pregame show. Lakers have several, I believe 4 back-to-backs, and they're trying to work LeBron and AD back in. But, you know, now when I don't know where your head was at. I thought we were going to win this game going in. I thought we weren't going to get swept by the Kings. And now you look at it and go, okay, well, where's the game you make up that you might not thought you would have won in these final 8 games?
Well, the good news is the next 2 games are teams that are over 500, but the Mavs play well, so there's some, you know, some confidence there. And obviously Cleveland, you know, you kind of worry about those games back to back, but you know, the Mavs can make up games. You know, they're going to win some games they're not supposed to, but it's the maturity showing that you got to beat the teams that you're supposed to, and you want to leave it in your hands. You don't want to have to depend on other teams, especially when we don't have the tiebreaker on both those teams.
Well, coming up next, while we take a look at that game on Tuesday night against the Miami Heat, it is going to be very meaningful. Heck, even Boban got mad today. Everybody was so mad tonight. So much anger and anxiety. We'll break it down.
Man, this was a fun game until the end, and now the Celtics have added injury to insult. Welcome into Celtics Postgame Live, presented by your New England Ford dealers. I'm Abby Chin. He is Big Perk. We are talking about a 129-119 loss to the Portland Trailblazers. Perk, Where do you want to start? The Marcus Smart ejection? I mean, the injury to Jalen and Jason, both limping to the locker room, or the fact that this loss, coupled with Miami, who is up big on the Hornets right now, would drop the Celtics into 7th place in the East?
Well, Abby, there's so many areas that we could touch on, but I just want to talk about how the officiating was horrible tonight. Both ways, right? They blew calls up and down the floor, from the Tristan Thompson putback to the charge on Damian Lillard. Actually, they missed another charge on Damian Lillard. It was so inconsistent, it messed up the floor of the game. And when you look at that tip back by Tristan Thompson, to me, that was the whole game changer right there. It went straight Portland way because right then they hit back-to-back baskets, and then the Celtics could never recover. As far as the Marcus Smart ejection, that is just ridiculous because you can't look like I watched the review as well as everyone else, and you can't say he intentionally stuck his hand out. So, you know, like that thing bothers me. And then all of a sudden you give them an extra free throw. It was just too much. Instead of just calling the offensive foul, play on, I mean, you know, it was just too much throughout the course of this game. But with all that said and done, the Celtics was just too relaxed. 129 points in regulation is just too many points to give up when you're fighting for playoff position and not to be in the play-in tournament.
For the record, that review of the Marcus Smart play took the refs 6 minutes, 8 seconds at the monitor and still to come away with that call as we bring in Scal now. Scal, we just heard from Perk. What are you hot on following this game?
I mean, there's a lot of ways to go here. I'm most concerned about Jalen and Jason, the way they went down, and I know how it is now. Like this Celtics in the playing game if Miami wins, and now if you have to go 3 games, 4 games, or 5 games without those 2 guys, I'm really worried about that. I agree with Perk. Like, this was a beautiful basketball game up until like the last 5 minutes of this game. Then you had the 2 timeouts by Portland, the bad calls by the officials, and then this right here to top it off. So not really hot on anything from the game, Abby. I'm just really disappointed about how this game ended, and especially with these 2 guys hitting. And the last thing I want to see is Jalen and Jason on the sideline both grabbing their leg like that. That's the last thing I want to see as a Celtic fan, especially in this moment right now.
And Jalen jumping off the court, can't even put weight on that right foot. Perk, what do you make of that? The injury at the end and just seeing that. I mean, the Celtics already without Kemba Walker, and then we know Marcus Smart was back in the locker room as well.
Well, I mean, you know, Abby, I'm not a doctor or anything, but from my eye tells me is that, to me, it looked like they just bumped legs. Hopefully it's nothing serious. It's just a bruise, something that they can ice up and be ready to go next game. I mean, we won't probably all know, but I hate to see it. And then, you know, it's getting to that time where it matters the most. Well, it's to that time where it matters the most. And like Scal said, both of your all-stars are going out. Kemba Walker, we don't know when he's coming back, you know, and just the Celtics don't, you know, they don't have room for this. Like, you know, they're actually playing catch-up and trying to position themselves, and it's just not good right now. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. 7 games to go. The good news is that the Celtics do have 2 days off after this one. Yes, Scal?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, I didn't even talk about the beauty of this basketball game up until 5 minutes to go. It was one of the better offensive performances I've seen. And I don't fully disagree with you, Perk. Like, I do think they could have leveled up a little bit defensively. You saw when they needed to, they kind of brought like Nesmith and Marcus Smart and Peyton Pritchard. Those guys brought a certain level, but some of the shots that these guys were hitting, I mean, C.J. McCollum and the way that he manipulates the dribble and Jason Tatum going to where he wanted to on attack mode the whole time. And I really enjoyed this basketball game up until, I think it was 3:30 to go when Portland banged out 2 timeouts in a row. Then they had to stop. Then they banged out another timeout to see the review. Up until that point, this was one of the better games of the year.
I don't know, Scal. There was another low point earlier in the 4th quarter when, I mean, Perk mentioned it earlier, when the refs called an offensive goaltending on Tristan Thompson when the ball clearly had cleared the cylinder. We're going to look at the video. Perk, you talk about the officials in this game. Mike pointed it out. Sean Wright, the lead official, 16 years in the league, but with all of the COVID, and Baxter Holmes of ESPN wrote an article about this as well, with injuries to refs as well. I mean, these are crews that have very little experience.
Yeah, but I mean, they're out there. They're at the NBA level. They get evaluated, Abby. So, you know, if they have little experience and they can't deal with the pressure of calling these games, they need to go to college. Because, listen, this was a crucial play. This was a momentum swing. Like the Celtics had just hawked down a 7-point lead. With that bucket, they would have took the lead by 1.
Yep.
And who knows what would have happened, you know, whatever. And that, like, things like that is draining. Because I believe right after that, Carmelo hit a 3 and C.J. McCollum hit a 3.
Back-to-back threes, and they were down 7, just like that.
That switched the whole game up. Like, they got to get it together. There's 3 officials out there. Like, somebody got to get it right.
Scal, if you're Brad Stevens.
And Perk's right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go like we know that the Damian Lillard, that was a block on Peyton Pritchard, but what Perk is talking about is real momentum. Like if they let that go and Tristan Thompson throws that ball down, like I'm pretty sure they're going to come down and get a stop, and the whole game unfolds differently. That Peyton Pritchard block that they ended up calling a charge on Damian Lillard, and I'm sure people will say that, well, look, it balances out. No, it doesn't, because that Tristan Thompson play was a big momentum play that got taken away. So, yeah, I mean, no question. And Perk's right. You go around the NBA right now, you want to see officials get it right so the players can dictate the ending. It just wasn't like that today. But, Abby, you mentioned the Nets-Buck game. That had some pretty good officiating in it. So you're just looking for consistency, especially, you know, these guys are fighting for their playoff lives. A call goes one way. Now all of a sudden they're in a playing game. You have no idea what happens in a playing game. So it is important to get these calls right.
And then finally, I mean, Marcus Smart getting ejected on a tech after, I mean, the video looks like he took a swing at Yusuf Nurkic's nether
Go ahead, Abby, you can say it.
Perk, since you had a lot of time to watch this as we waited 6 minutes for the video review, what do you think about this play?
I mean, to be honest, and I'm not being biased here, I think this just went off the history of Marcus Smart.
Yeah, I do too.
He got ejected. He got this technical foul just off of his history, right? It could have been intentional. He could have done it, you know, with a purpose. But to me, I don't know. It's the same thing with Dennis Schroeder. Both of these guys have a history of sometimes doing certain things that's just uncalled for. But I will say this. Marcus Smart has to learn how to control himself in big moments. He plays extremely hard, but this is not the first time in the last couple of weeks that he has got a technical or did something crazy on the defensive end for us, costing, you know, guys just extra points and extra possessions. Like, those things have to stop, especially if he's called the leader of this ball team.
I agree with Perk. I feel like this was a reputation call on Marcus Smart. Scal, is this something that he can work his way out of?
No, you know, so I'm going to say you guys are both wrong. They called Adam Silver. He was having dinner. That's why it took 6 minutes. Adam, what do you want to do on this call? They showed it on his phone. He basically was like, okay, my thing. Because, by the way, those officials are not ejecting Marcus Smart. Whoever's in the replay center probably is not. That went, in 6 minutes, that went all the way up the chain of command to find out what they were going to do. So,
Scal, just to clarify,
to me, that was...
You said it in the game. I mean, that was not his second tech. Why was he ejected on that one play?
I don't know the ruling on that, but like I said, in 6 minutes, that went up the chain of command. So whoever's in charge, those are the ones that made that decision. So they're not. I guarantee they didn't get it wrong.
So they just bend. My thing is this, Abby and Scal. So they just bend the rules, right? Like, we're going to not assess a flagrant foul. We're going to give him a tech and an injection. I never saw that, period. Like,
and
in my 14.
Yeah. You go up the chain of command. It's the same command that just handed down a one-game suspension to Marcus Smart.
Yeah, you guys are. I think you're reading it the wrong way. I think that's like punching a guy in the face. That's the guy. I think that's what they look at it like. Like you can punch a guy in the face and be ejected. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
You can get a tech and be ejected by punching somebody in the face. That's how they looked at it. They didn't look at it like, well, now we got to give him two.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah,